Hello there, Sir from 17 once again, and as any good Sean Bean meme will tell you, Borderlands 2 content is coming. And you don't have to be stood on top of a mountain, brandishing a broadsword, wearing some furs and pelts, you know, for that to make sense, because this is a fantastic game, this is a fantastic sequel, and what you're watching here, folks, is just some footage from last night where I was watching some streams and I decided to try and catch up to my friends on Borderlands by actually playing some of the missions. Because what I've been doing, folks, is the Time Cop crew that you know and some people love, we generally get together when a co-op game comes out and we play it together. And I've got into this habit on Borderlands of not actually playing the game and progressing at all unless I'm playing with my friends. And because my friends right now have, you know, we've graduated, people are getting jobs, people have got priorities, we're finding it really difficult getting on at the same time. So everybody's kind of playing the game fragmented, except for me. So a bunch of those guys have already beat it, and I'm very far behind, so every time I come on they join my game and they don't get any experience and they're murdering everything in one bullet, and it's a bit of a weird experience. And I just thought, while I played, this is a completely new area for me. I've never been here, guys, this is all blind footage. I thought I'd record some of it so that I could put some up on the channel for people that are looking forward to seeing some. And I thought I'd explain what I'm probably going to do, because this is going to be a 3 videos series. It's an hour's worth of footage. And I'd never seen these, is it bedrock? I can't quite read it thanks to the shitty resolution of my monitor. But I've never seen these bullymongs before that, you know, were level 25. I was so used to one-shotting them back in the tundra that I didn't want to go down into this pit, so you'll notice I'm going to use this cliff top a lot as cover, and I'm just going to use the weapons that I've got on my character. And you'll notice I'm not a very high level, I'm not that far in the game, and the guns that I'm using, probably not some of the best choices, but what I do on Borderlands, for people that don't know how I play, I use the guns that I think look good, or look decent enough and perform the way I enjoy to play. For instance, this revolver, I personally think it looks fucking crap. I don't like the fact that half of the iron sight is on the left hand side of it, and I don't really like how the barrel looks, but it doesn't look too bad, and it's much better than the one I was using. And the reason I use it is because I like pistols, and I love that you can fire it as fast as you can press the button. This gun here is my favourite gun on the game. It reminds me of the elephant rifle from Borderlands 1, and the iron sights on it are just sexy. Not only that, but it's extremely damaging, and I love the bolt action reloads on the snipers, and I'm probably going to use this gun even when it stops being useful, because it's just so fun to fire it and use it. And you can mess around with quickscoping, you can mess around with a lot of things with it. You've just got to be aware that if it doesn't do the bolt and it doesn't do a full cycle, you will not be able to fire it immediately. So don't try and fire it too quickly or you'll just fail. But yeah, a little disclaimer, this is not me showing you how to be pro in Borderlands. This is me exploring an area I don't know. This is me showing you that I love to check in corners and jump on bins and do some crazy Borderlands parkour work, trying to get on rooftops and stuff. But it gives me an opportunity to talk about some stuff that's been happening recently and just talk about Borderlands in general. So what I'm probably going to do with this game is I'm going to try and do a Time Cop playthrough. And for people that are unaware of my podcast, which does still exist, we're just having difficulties arranging it because everybody's really busy. Me and 3 other guys get together and talk shit for 2 hours, and I record them. It's called the Time Cop podcast. The full name is I Don't Even Want One Copy of Time Cop, which is a pretty obscure South Park reference, and if you get it, you're already initiated in our sense of humour. But what I want to do with this is I want to go into true Vault Hunter mode, which I think is New Game Plus, where the enemies get stronger, you get better loot and all that good stuff. And I think I'm going to record a full playthrough, a full 4-player playthrough of the game. The difficulties that I'm having is literally limited by my own abilities. It's limited by, you know, the ability to get everybody online, but also by the ability to record live commentaries. So I don't know how Xcal and Onslaught and all the popular Call of Duty commentators that I watch do the live comms, because when I've messed with the settings, it doesn't seem to work as good as theirs do. And I go into, you know, the voice options on the Xbox, I change it so that it plays through both headset and speakers, and then I turn the game volume down. But, like, I must not have turned it down enough, or it just doesn't seem to be recording correctly, because the audio of the dialogues that we're having, and my friends' chats, and the audio of the actual game are both on the exact same track. And the music generally overpowers the voice, and even when I, you know, completely lower the audio of the game, it seems to still be too loud. So I haven't quite figured out how to do it yet. But the other option that I'm going to tell the boys when I next get to speak to them is perhaps recording through Skype, because Skype is easy to use, it's quick to download, it's free, and I could just use Audacity to record the input of Skype, or even Fraps or something. I'm sure there's ways to just record audio. It's probably really simple on the PC, and record it that way. And my only hesitation with that is, A, it's a bit of a ball ache for my friends to have to get Fraps, because they are extremely lazy people at time. But at the same time, it will definitely work, I know that for certain should I say. And another thing you'll notice, when anyone's in a Skype chat, doesn't even exist, that sounds like something White Boy would be promoting on a video. You know, in a Skype chat, you'll notice that the delay of the person receiving your message is palpable, so it seems like people are waiting a couple of seconds between sentences, and I don't know if that's indicative of how close you are to the person in the world, and if it is, the boys literally live down the road from me, so we should be pretty quick on Skype, but it might make the conversation feel a little bit weird. I'm not too sure. But if anybody has a good idea or a way to fix these issues that I'm having, feel free to leave a comment, and it will definitely aid this playthrough that we're going to be doing. I mean, it's not guaranteed that I will do it. I might just continue to add little clips and bosses and funny moments and stuff. I'm not too sure, because this is a great game, but it's a difficult game to commentate. And the only way it's not difficult to commentate is if you do a live playthrough of it, and I'm not doing a live playthrough because I've already got 2 going at the moment, and one of them I need to get back to, which is Saints Row, for anybody that's been with me for quite a while. Oh, and this gun here, if anybody's wondering why I'm using it, it's extremely damaging. I don't like the gun at all, I don't like the aimer, I don't like how it looks, I don't like that it fires rockets, I don't like this brand at all. Why am I using it, you ask? Because I got a jackpot on the slot machine, and it's the first time I've ever got one, the triple Borderlands symbol, and it gave me this weapon, which is an orange, and its damage is like 1700, so in the grand scheme of my guns right now, it's actually a pretty decent weapon, even though I completely despise it. But do leave feedback, guys, because I don't know, is this enjoyable to watch? Because Borderlands could be like Diablo, it could be, you know, it's more fun to play than it is to watch, because watching Diablo is boring as shit in my opinion, because I've got no investment in the game and I don't know what I'm watching, and it just looks like a bunch of people clicking, you know, the mouse. Similar to League of Legends, I know there's a lot of strategy to League of Legends, and I've got a couple of friends that are absolutely in love with the game, but when you watch it, it just looks like a fucking clusterfuck, it really does, it just looks like a bunch of people. Like, if you ever played Destruction Derby for the PlayStation, where you were in a big circle and everybody drove into the middle and started smashing each other, that kind of reminds me of what those games look like. Look at these guys, they're everywhere. If you're wondering the grenade mod I'm using, I don't know what it's called, but I really like it. It's a grenade mod that rewards accuracy. It's kind of like the longbow, but it's not quite as delayed, and it does some massive damage if you hit people, but if you don't, it bounces, and it's really funny. But this is kind of funny, this, because I'm contemplating going down into this abyss, and it turns out that there's an elevator coming towards me, so I end up stepping on the elevator. Which I didn't expect, because elevators in this game, or lifts, or whatever you want to call them, are completely redundant, because there's no fall damage, and you should just drop. So it's a formality at that point, which I find really funny. But more senseless looting, picking shears up, doing the Borderlands thing. I'm playing as Zero, if anybody wants to know the character and is not too familiar with Borderlands 2. I don't like him at all. He was the only character that had not really been chosen, because I didn't want to be the Gunzerker. And I didn't want to be the Gunzerker purely on cosmetic reasons. His abilities look amazing. It's just I don't want to be a 4-foot fucking fridge that's running around, you know, speaking Mexican. It's just not my thing, or Puerto Rican, or whatever he does. And instead, I got this character who I thought everybody would flock to because he's, you know, the stereotypical cyber ninja with a sword, and it turns out that he's a pile of shit, really. And I do think once you level him up and you spec into certain areas, he'll probably be much more useful and much more fun to play. But as it stands, I just feel like you know, half a character really, because the ability is only good defensively right now because I don't have the points to put into the really cool stuff. And it has a function of where the longer you're in it, and then when you shoot while in it, you'll do more damage. The only problem with this notion is shooting on Borderlands, especially with sniper rifles trying to go for a critical, can be really finicky because the enemies move a lot. The aiming is fine, but it's just difficult to get headshots sometimes. It's not like, you know, a Call of Duty or a Gears of War when it comes to the precision on hitting heads. It's much more difficult because the aiming seems to be less lenient in my opinion. But I'm currently putting points into the tree that leads down to the shurikens, or the kunais as they're called, because I'm really excited to see if it's a fun ability. Because right now, as it stands, all I use the ability for is to get my shield back. That's literally it. The critical bonus is nice, but you'll notice I frequently miss because I seem to always get into a situation where I've used it against a Goliath who's got one of those really tiny heads, and I generally miss. If you do hit though, you get a massive critical. But one thing I have noticed about this game, and I don't know if any others have, is the driving doesn't seem to have improved a lot. Like, there's moments when the car will just randomly stop and clip against geometry that doesn't seem to be there. It's kind of weird. And it's by no means broken, it's just it could have been smoother, considering that this game has smoothened out a considerable a considerable amount of problems I had with the first game. And there are some definite changes. If you've not played it and you think it looks exactly the same, there's a lot of, you know, meta changes in the gameplay that make it very different at times. And the biggest one for me, which is my biggest, you know, flaw in the game so far, is there seems to be much less emphasis on the gun chests. And I really liked gun chests in Borderlands 1. I liked the fact that you could go to the towns, you could jump on all the roofs, and you generally found 3 or 4 gun chests, and it made it fun, because I love like jumping around like an idiot. I love glitch jumping, and I love all that kind of stuff. And the first game seemed to really reward you, whereas this game, you jump on roofs and you just find like $5, and you know, $50, it's not great at all. And it seems to be a little bit disappointing for somebody like me. Plus, a lot of the rooftops can be difficult to jump on, and when you're up there, they don't really seem all that exciting, which is a bit of a shame. But the weapons chests, as I was saying, like, when you hit those areas where there was maybe 5 or 6 weapons chests in a room, it was so exciting. You're like, oh, I'm gonna get some weapons! And it was, you know, the biggest rush of the game, because you never knew what you was gonna get, and chances are it was a bunch of whites and a big old pile of shit that you just sell to a slot machine or you know one of the vending machines. But you never know, you could have got an orange, you could have got a purple, you could have got something. In this game, they've scaled them down massively. I think I've seen 3 weapons chests in one area once. Every other one is really, you know, more hidden, more secretive, more difficult to reach. Like, they've made a conscious decision to give you less weapons chests, and it's really palpable if you're somebody like me who kind of lived from weapons chest to weapons chest. And I don't like it, I don't, but at the same time what they've done is they've given loot a lot more value. For instance, the opponents you kill will now drop a hell of a lot more rares than they ever dropped before. You have a chance of getting a weapon from any enemy, potentially. And that is cool, that, because it gives the drops value and it makes it much more balanced in that regard. Is it more fun that way? I'm not too sure yet, but I definitely miss the chests. And my main reason for, you know, these lamentations is General Knox, man. That DLC, when you got into that vault and there was about 50 chests, maybe more, you were timed and you could die if you didn't get out fast enough, but how cool was that place? And my Borderlands 2 would have been every room like that room, because I just loved it. And the closest thing I've come to on this game of getting the same kind of feeling is when you go in, I think it's Lynchwood, and there's a bank you need to rob, and when you go into this bank there's just a bunch of safes to open. There's like 25 safes on each wall, and you're just flipping doors open and getting money, and I got really excited at that moment because I like doing that kind of stuff, but there's not enough of that for me, and it's a shame. But everything else, so much better. The environments are diverse, they're rich, they're more detailed, they're better designed, they look nicer, they feel nicer, they play nicer. Like, the old game had a very rigid colour palette that it barely deviated from, but this game, there's every colour imaginable. There's so many different shades. It's really nice for that. There's a nice and, you know, wide variety of enemies too. There's old favourites coming back. There's new creations. There seems to be a lot more detail in the enemies. Watch this. I did not realise that this was going to happen, and I could not brake fast enough to stop it from happening. And if you're wondering why I didn't respond to the radio coming on saying, you know, the bridge is going to get lifted and everything, I was watching a Twitch stream while I was playing, so I didn't have the volume. And that's why the subtitles are on, so I could read what people were saying. But I thought that was kind of funny, so that's why I kept it in. And found a couple of side missions there on the bounty board that I'll probably end up doing. Because I do like to do all the side quests, it's just when I was recording I didn't want to do the fetch quests. And a lot of the side quests are, you know, just glorified fetching bullshit. But yeah, some of the enemies, the enemy detail on this game is much better. There's enemies that have stages and states of existence where they change their attack patterns and they change the behaviour. There's even, you know, agriculture that affects the battlefield that you can use to your own advantage. There's a lot of details that I'm glad they've added because it really diversifies the fighting. And one thing that I'm really pleased with is the sniper rifles. I played Mordecai on Borderlands 1, and if you played with 3 other people, by the time you got halfway through that game, you were pretty much pointless, just like Zero feels to me right now, because everybody else's ability overshined yours. And don't get me wrong, Bloodwing was great, but Bloodwing was really the only great thing about that class, because sniper rifles were so bad and so pointless that you literally had to spec to the, you know, pass through the shields, a chance to negate shields for them to be effective. Because by the time you'd lined your shot up and fired, you didn't do enough damage to kill things, and your team would just rail them with turrets and sirens and bricks and all sorts of madness. So you just felt like a support character who wasn't very good at supporting. And that was my main criticism of the sniper rifles in the first game. They just didn't feel good enough. Neither did the rockets. There were a lot of weapons that just felt like filler. This game fixes that, and it fixes it well. The snipers are a legitimate choice now. Not only do they look cool and they feel great, but they do a lot of damage, and the critical on a sniper is insane. It's exactly as it should be. A lot of the times when you're playing solo, you will one-shot things unless they're a higher level than you. And that's how it should be. I like that a lot. Couple of things I also really enjoy, the shields, the things that they've done with the shields. There seems to be a much more wider expanse of abilities linked to your shields, and I think this is because they've changed a lot how the mods work. I haven't really found that many mods that have been that interesting, so the mods themselves to me kind of feel like a step down, but the shields are such a step up from the last game, fail, that I thought it was really cool, because like, you can get ones that give you extra melee damage when your shield is gone, you get ones that give you, you know, crippling damage when you've got full shield, and everything in between. You know, when you get hit, you release caustic damage and shockwaves and novas. There's a lot of different things, and it's definitely made it a much, you know, richer game as far as builds go. Because Darksiders 2 came out quite recently. I'm currently making a guide, and look what's happening here. No idea what's going on there. Couldn't even get the headshot on that dude because he was crazy, floating and shit, doing his David Blaine impression. However, Darksiders 2 recently came out, and my biggest criticism of the game is literally that the skill trees are pointless. The skill trees, you know, take away all the fun from the game, because there's 5 or 6 abilities worth using, and the rest of them are stats based or boring, and you get to a point where you've picked all the abilities you want, and then you don't want to spend your points on anything else because there's nothing worth choosing. And this game could have easily gone down that avenue, and if I'm completely honest, I wish they'd have gone further with the abilities, because I would like, I'm sorry, but I'm playing Dark Souls a lot, and Dark Souls is making me really appreciate, you know, builds, choice, the ability to create extremely unique characters. And I know that this game and Dark Souls couldn't be more different, and you can't really associate them together, but at the same time, to have such choice and such diversity in making a character completely unique to myself and my playstyle is something that I'm really beginning to appreciate what From Software did. And when these games come out and they promise, you know, 1 million combinations, 2 billion guns, 20 billion guns, a bajillion guns, and that's something I've got to mention actually, folks, because it pisses me off. Every time Gearbox says there is 250 bazillion guns, what they really mean is this is a piece of marketing slogan to try and get people interested in the game, and we're complete and utter liars. Because the guns themselves, just like on Borderlands 2, there is maybe 100 different presets. Well, watch this dude. What's up? You know, just chilling on the floor. Check out my sneakers. Oh yeah. But there's about 100 presets, which, don't get me wrong, that is an astronomical amount of weapons to model in a game. There's a bunch of different ones. But once you get past the presets, that's pretty much it. Because what constitutes a different weapon in the Borderlands universe, when they're using all the fucking, you know, buzzwords to try and get everybody excited, is a different colour, a different element, a different stat. And don't get me wrong, semantically, it is a different weapon. But visually, it's not. All that's happened is there is a handful of scopes, a handful of attachments, a handful of different things on a preset amount of guns. So all you get is a randomly assorted preset. And I'm sorry, but it's not 2 bazillion guns, because you get to a point in the game where you've seen all the presets, so all the guns start to look like something you already know what they look like. And that to me is not 2 billion guns, and it pisses me off when they say it in those adverts, because I would love 2 million guns, all completely different, but realistically it would probably take too much money out of the budget to invest that amount of time in modelling. So I completely understand it, but there's not 2 bazillion guns in this game. They lied.